they want to be understood before they understand, right? And one of
Hmm.
the things he's always told me is like, Chris, have the patience to seek understanding, then be understood, right? And
Hmm.
I think what you just elaborated on is like so powerful. And it's a great action item for people. Like the ability to be an active listener, to take and say, hey, I processed what you said, and I'm going to allow you the space to and what you mentioned kind of highlighted something that I remember reading about. And it's called like giving people the space to take an emotional breath.
Hmm.
And the whole idea of the emotional breath is like, man, people got things on their, and if you can feel that sometimes, that it's like there's a tension or there's something like with this person. I remember putting this in the application as a leader, right? I had a person on my team, and she was taking care of her mom and like her brother, and she had a son. She had a lot on her shoulders, and
Hmm.
she was always a high performer. She was always a high potential person on the team. She always did a great job. But I started to see that this was whatever was going on in her life started to carry over to work. It started to carry over to her relationships. So I remember being in my office with her, and I sat down and I said, hey, it seems like something's going on.
Hmm.
What's on your mind? And the power of that question, Katrina, is because what's on your mind, you can take it whatever way you want to go. Like
Hmm.
it's a very open path, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she took it down, talking about the difficulty that she's having with her mom's immigration, with her brother who's like dropping out of school, her son, and she just talked, right? And she talked and she got done. And I said, what else? And she kept going. And
Hmm.
I said, let me know more. And this
Yeah.
was, and I could just see the weight and the emotion that she just felt like, thank you. I can finally have a safe space as a leader in a professional environment, dealing with something personally, that I can take an emotional breath. And I
Yeah.
remember at the end of the conversation, right? And the whole time she's talking, Katrina, I wasn't like, I wasn't thinking through strategies. I wasn't like, well, have you thought
Hmm.
about doing this? Have you? I didn't.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Most leaders go through solution mode. Like you go in, you want to
Hmm.
start solutioning things, right? We got done with the conversation, and at the result at the end, she came up to me and she gave me a hug and she says, Chris, I can't tell you how impactful that was to have your time, even though it's business. Like this was during the day. This wasn't like outside of work. This was like right before we go to lunch. And she said, Chris, thank you for taking the time. And I know this wasn't about work, it wasn't about business, but I feel so much better that having you as a leader that I can go through and I can feel safe.
Hmm.
I can
Hmm.
feel like I'm understood. I can
Hmm.
feel like that I can be vulnerable, and you don't tell me how I should fix it. You let me know that it's okay that you are fixing it.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah.
completely different things. And I think back to like sharing that as an example, man, as leaders, we have such, you don't understand how much power we have in terms of like not only
Yeah.
turning people, like I've had people on my team that I've had to let go. I've had people on my team that have been low performers that I've taken to high performers. I've had teammates and led teams where I've had high performers that go to, you see it all. But at the end of the day, right, I think the most important piece for leaders to take away is giving them that time that you talked about. Stop, stop it. Stop listening to respond and
Hmm.
start listening to
Yeah.
understand. That as a quick start guide that you mentioned is a superpower of establishing relationship. Because and this is where I want to talk to you more about like relationships and establishing them. I think when you focus on those things, right? uh, Great relationships are built on two core competencies, at least what I see. And I want to get your thoughts on what do you think of the foundation of great relationships. The first one is trust. The
Hmm.
second one is like capacity and under like how do I trust this person, or are they
Hmm.
competent, right? Trust and competencies
Hmm.
are like the two different things, right? And always in business, right? This is the business hat. We always want to make sure that somebody is like the most competent finance person, the most competent HR person, the most competent legal person. We focus on competencies and naturally as an inclination on the professional side. But personally, we need to focus on building trust with people, right? And I would challenge and venture to say, both personally and professionally, when you're talking about building great relationships, you need to focus on trust in both of them.